The census, conducted every 10 years in the United States, collects vital data about every resident. This information enables the Census Bureau to create an accurate portrait of cities, states, and the nation. Census 2020 data influences various decisions, including civil rights enforcement and the allocation of $700 billion in federal funding annually to states and localities. Additionally, it plays a crucial role in fair political representation for U.S. citizens, ensuring equitable distribution of political power. Today, we will discuss the secrets behind conducting the U.S. Census and unveil the logistics involved. Let's begin. In accordance with Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, a crucial task unfolds on this particular block, nestled within one city in one state of the United States. The mandate is clear. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. What this means, in essence, is that every decade, the United States government embarks on a monumental mission. Their goal? To ascertain the population not just of this singular block, but of every block across every city, state, and territory within the nation. On the surface, this task may appear straightforward, but in reality, it's a colossal undertaking that requires a decade of meticulous preparation and a staggering $15.6 billion to execute. This endeavor falls under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Census Bureau, involving the dedicated efforts of thousands of employees. Their mission? To collect, tabulate, and analyze data from every corner of the country, ensuring the accurate representation of the nation's ever-evolving demographic landscape. But it's not an easy task still. Why? Counting over 300 million is such a daunting task. But instead of delving into the intricacies of how the U.S. Census Bureau manages this colossal undertaking, let's zoom in on a more manageable scenario, counting the residents of a single city block. The Census Bureau's preparations for the 2020 census began on November 1, 2011, involving a dedicated team of approximately 4,000 full-time staff. These individuals are responsible for meticulously planning and coordinating the census, alongside their other ongoing programs. However, when the moment arrives to execute the census once every decade, the Bureau recruits an additional 500,000 temporary workers. The core team of 4,000 professionals spends the better part of a decade crafting their operational strategy, with the initial draft completed by late 2015. The subsequent 3 years are dedicated to fine-tuning this plan, a crucial part of which involves determining the locations of the Census Bureau's field offices. The United States is divided into 6 regions, each hosting permanent offices located in Los Angeles, Denver, Chicago, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and New York City. Within these regions, 248 temporary field offices are established to oversee local census operations. The distribution of these field offices is determined by population density, so states like Colorado have only 4, while New York boasts a total of 21. These field offices play a pivotal role in the census process as they hire hundreds, and sometimes thousands, of enumerators who venture out into the streets to collect census data. Finding 500,000 temporary workers is no easy feat, particularly during the 2020 census, which coincided with historically low unemployment rates in the country. To attract a diverse workforce across the nation, the Census Bureau adjusts wages to accommodate varying cost of living standards. For instance, enumerators in Mesa County, Colorado, receive a competitive wage of $16 per hour, which is considered attractive in the region for a low-skilled job requiring minimal qualifications. However, offering the same pay rate in the bustling urban landscape of New York City would be far less enticing. To address this, wages in the city are increased to a range of $25 to $28 per hour. Despite offering competitive compensation, the Census Bureau still faces significant challenges in filling all available positions. To address this hurdle, they spend years meticulously recruiting and preparing their temporary workforce, ensuring that every corner of the nation is represented in the monumental effort to count every citizen. Here's the breakdown. In mid-2018, the wheels of the massive operation known as the U.S. Census began turning. You might wonder why they needed to start so early, but the answer lies in the intricate logistics involved. You see, before the census can go knocking on every household's door to ask how many people reside there, they need to know where each of these households is located. Over the past decade, New houses might have sprung up, properties might have been divided, and various changes could have occurred. This preliminary step is absolutely crucial for accuracy, and it's not just about counting traditional residences. The census also aims to include those living in unconventional places. Think of a homeless person in an alley, someone residing in a motorhome parked in a driveway, or any other atypical living arrangement. They all need to be counted. In the past, the census relied heavily on manpower. They sent enumerators to walk every block in the country, painstakingly noting the location of each residence. It was a colossal undertaking that devoured countless person-hours. However, the 2020 census introduced a game-changer. They began harnessing satellite imagery to identify residences. This modern approach is far from perfect, as it can't always distinguish between one residence and two. For such ambiguous cases, the census still dispatches enumerators to conduct on-the-ground checks. The ultimate goal of this Herculean effort is to compile a comprehensive list of every place where people call home in the United States. Now, let's shift gears to the questionnaire itself. You might think it's a straightforward affair since it's designed to be easily answered by everyone. It starts with 4 background questions, followed by 5 about the primary resident and 7 more for every additional household member. Despite its apparent simplicity, the Census Bureau invests an incredible amount of time in debating how to phrase these questions. In fact, they went so far as to publish a lengthy 98-page document explaining their rationale for selecting the 2020 questions and their precise wording. Take, for instance, question 3, which pertains to non-primary residents. In the past, there was no distinction between same-sex and opposite-sex couples in the relation category. This led to issues where a simple mistake, like marking one's gender incorrectly, could skew the data significantly. To rectify this, the census revamped the question to include a specific identification for same-sex or opposite-sex couples. This ensures that even if someone mistakenly identifies their gender incorrectly, their relationship will still be recorded accurately. These are the tiny details the Bureau has to think about for each and every question and change. They have to think about how to best structure them to get the best possible accuracy. Once they have their questions, one of the final things the census needs to figure out is how they're actually going to ask for responses. For most urban areas, like a block in Grand Junction, Colorado, the process is straightforward. A mailed invitation directs residents to complete the census online. However, simplicity isn't always the answer. In Grand Junction, for instance, certain pockets house assisted living facilities with older residents who may not be tech-savvy. To ensure everyone is counted accurately, these areas receive both online invitations and paper census form. This approach is part of a broader strategy because about 22% of the country is classified as less likely to respond online, necessitating paper forms. Then there are unique cases like Eagle County, where a substantial portion of the population speaks Spanish and has limited English skills. Here, bilingual invitations to complete the census online are sent out. In places like Castilla County, with a large Spanish-speaking population and limited internet access, bilingual paper census forms are the solution. The census strategically classifies regions into these 4 categories to maximize response rates. After offices are set up, staff is hired and questions are penned. It's time for the census to kick off in earnest, but there's a strict timeline to adhere to. The first census responses can't be collected until 2020 begins, and every response must be in by the end of 2020. That gives the census exactly 366 days to count every single person in the U.S. and deliver that count to Congress. Interestingly, the first place to be counted isn't Grand Junction. It's Toksook Bay, Alaska. Census workers brave the cold and frozen terrain, traveling by snowmobile to reach remote Alaskan towns. This early start is essential because later in the year, when most of the country's counting occurs, thawing ice and snow make travel difficult. In the lower 48 states, the census process is more predictable. In mid-March, 95% of American households receive a mailed invitation to complete the census online, including our block. However, in cases like a mobile home in someone's driveway or residences in disaster-prone areas or using P.O. boxes, the census opts for hand-delivered invitations, a method employed in about 4% of cases. For less than 1% of households, in-person visits are necessary right from the start, mainly in remote areas of Alaska, Maine, and some American Indian reservations. Typically, about 1/3 of houses don't respond on time, despite it being a legal requirement. In such cases, enumerators pay them a visit. Prioritization is crucial. For instance, college campuses are visited first before students move out in mid-May. Each household receives 3 visits. And if they still don't respond, the census enumerators may ask neighbors for information. This process is repeated for the 5th and 6th tries. If there's no response after 5 mailings, 6 visits, and 3 neighbor inquiries, the census assumes the residence is uninhabited. Besides counting those living in households, the census also tracks individuals without a permanent residence, like the homeless. Special outreach efforts, including setting up at shelters and food vans, are made to count these populations. Additionally, people working on American ships are counted through the Maritime and Military Vessel Enumeration Program, which sends customized forms to seafarers and ensures no double counting occurs. In the latter half of 2020, as in-person visits wrap up, the census shifts gears to crunch the data. They meticulously analyze the information collected to provide Congress with an accurate count by December 31st, 2020. This count is vital, as it determines the allocation of seats in the House of Representatives among states. In 2010, the census counted 308,745,538 people living in the U.S. In 2020, that number is expected to rise to approximately 330 million. The countdown is on until December 31st, 2020, when we'll have the official figures. Behind these numbers, there's a vast team of dedicated professionals working tirelessly to ensure the census is conducted accurately and efficiently. And that's a wrap on the secrets behind the U.S. Census logistics. Thanks for exploring this vital operation with us. Stay tuned for more intriguing insights and make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Four Corners Facts. See you in the next one.